Hello everyone! You're about to hear a synopsis of the film The Principal. Enjoy! Rick Latimer is going through hard times. His wife left him and started dating her lawyer. A drunk Rick saw them at a bar and, grabbing a baseball bat, chased the man. The lawyer ran out of the bar and tried to drive away in his car, but Rick caught up with him, smashing all the windows and headlights. This wonderful guy is a school teacher. Yinton, thank you. Linda, please put on a bra. This doesn't affect your grades. Rick was sure he'd be fired today because of what happened. But instead, the man gets a promotion. He's been offered the principalship of the worst school in town. The loser has no choice. So, mounting his Honda, Rick heads to the school, located in the poorest part of town. It's hard to look at her without tears. A nondescript, neglected building with painted-over graffiti. Rick witnessed a showdown between two gangs. After tearing down the fence, the thugs drove onto the school grounds and started a fight. A white prisoner nearly stabbed Rick in the side, but the teacher grabbed both Patlatov and his opponent, Emil. The car with the remaining gang members drove away. That was Rick's first encounter with the students. They sent the principal away and were planning to continue the fight in his office. Rick wanted to call the police and have the two expelled from the school, but Mr. Darcy warned him not to get too excited. The stern head of security, Jake Phillips, immediately entered the office and took both offenders away. The students here had previously been expelled from all educational institutions. Therefore, no one will be expelled from here anymore. This school is a dumping ground for all the city's scum. Almost all of them are members of various gangs and have committed all sorts of crimes. The main local crime boss is named Victor Duncan. He's taken over most of the school grounds. The head of security isn't taking Rick seriously. They're constantly changing directors, especially since this one is already looking for a job at the newspaper. Arthur is fed up with Victor's gang, so he waits every day for Phillips to escort him home. The gangsters were indeed standing nearby, keeping an eye on the boy. Rick still hopes to win his ex back, but she's already tired of this alcoholic who can't hold down a job. Rick began to think it was time for him to change his life. That evening, he returned to the school to study the personnel file of the main gangster, Victor Duncan. The next day, Rick noticed a boy hiding from a gang in the gym. He decided to investigate. Raimi explained that he'd been blacklisted, and now he's trying to survive here somehow. Neither the principal nor the police can save him. This school is a real dump, and Rick, the alcoholic loser, has found himself in it. All the students already know about his mistakes. The principal entered the teacher's lounge and gave him a dressing down. Some teachers don't even show up for their own classes. An angry Rick demanded that all the students be gathered in the auditorium. The principal declared that the lawlessness had ended. The crowd, of course, booed him. No truancy, gambling, swearing, or drug dealing, Rick added. An end to robberies, violence, and other abominations that flourish here. The principal is ready to do anything to stop the lawlessness. That same Victor came out to Rick and ordered his guys to shut the guy up, but they were attacked by guys from a rival gang. A massive brawl ensued. Rick caught up with Victor as he was leaving and told him he'd put him on the student council. If the authority figure refused, he'd be expelled from his school. In response, Victor pulled out his knife. "This school is mine. I set the rules here. This is over." From words, Rick moved on to action. First, he found a girl selling joints in the restroom and flushed all the dope down the toilet. There were 3 security guards for the entire school. Rick ordered the gym teachers to be paid extra so they could also maintain order. From now on, a crowd of security guards herd truants into their classrooms immediately after the bell. They intercept thefts and search lockers. They dragged the fast-paced senior yo-yo into the classrooms by force. Victor's gang consists exclusively of black students. White thugs try to oppose them, but they are outnumbered. History teacher Hilaria Roscoe doesn't like what Rick is doing. She maintains some semblance of order, but the principal brings thugs into the classroom and the learning process goes to hell. Fuck. I know a thing or two about women. She liked me. After class, Victor threatened Rick again. "I'll cut off your hand." "I have another one." The other teachers are also upset that the principal is throwing these animals into their classrooms. One of them even urinated on the floor. Completely unruly thugs. "Are these students on your rolls?" "Yes." "Then by law you have to teach them." Rick believes teachers can't pick and choose who gets taught and who doesn't. If someone is a problem, they'll need to work with them longer. Urine stinks if you don't excrete it. Get to work. Such rantings only make Phillips smile. Looking around fearfully, Rick arrived at the home of the student selling weed in the restroom. The girl decided to leave school. Her son ran up to the principal. "Mom? Yes, I have a child. Get out before you get kicked out." Rick persuades Trina to stay since she has good grades, but Victor has already found her a new spot in the city. She needs to work. Rick offered the girl private lessons starting at 6 in the morning. The rest of the time she can work. Work on yourself, fool. Trina finally showed up, albeit late, but immediately went out for a short while. Rick saw through the window that his motorcycle was being dismantled for parts. They threw a towel over his head and severely beat him up by members of Victor's gang. The principal was left lying on the floor. Coming to, a bloodied Rick trudged to his motorcycle to collect what was left. Afterward, he went to the Latino guy's garage to find out who did it. They wouldn't be able to name names, but they could reassemble his motorcycle. Rick guessed that Trina had sold it to the gangsters. Nevertheless, he still intends to help her. Tomorrow, he'll be waiting for her in class again at 6 a.m. Now Rick carries a bat everywhere. The guys fixed his bike and even added the words El Principal to it. Rick raided Victor's supplier and beat them with a bat. The student promised the gangsters he'd deal with him himself. The gang was on the motorcyclist's tail. Victor was about to shoot the principal, but he rode onto school grounds, and the gangster hesitated to commit the crime in front of a crowd of witnesses. Phillips thinks the principal has overdone it. He can protect him within the school walls, but Rick is defenseless outside. Even Phillips is afraid of Victor because he knows what he's capable of. The security guard himself once graduated from this school. It's always been like this here. But Rick intends to turn this dump into a proper school. Hillary found a note asking to talk after class. It was supposedly left by Emil, but that wasn't his style. The woman suspected something was wrong. A guy with a bag over his head was waiting for her in the empty hallway, and he clearly hadn't come for extracurricular activities. The bastard attacked the woman. Hillary was lucky that Arturo was waiting for her downstairs, talking to Rick. The principal rode his motorcycle into the building and rode it through the hallways. Hillary was no longer able to resist. The culprit removed his mask. Beneath it was White Zach. The principal smashed the door to pieces and attacked Patlatov. The bastard was beaten and thrown into a dumpster. The woman was taken away by ambulance, and Zach by the police. Hillary was badly beaten, and Victor doesn't hide his joy over this. After all, he's gotten rid of his main rival in the power struggle. The substitute history teacher couldn't last even a day at this school. Rick was forced to teach history in Hillary's place. A fight broke out in class between Emil and Arturo. The boy believes that the black thug is also involved in the attack on his favorite teacher. Rick made Emil do push-ups in his office. Maybe he'll remember something about the attack. Arturo also showed up. He can't read, and his history teacher taught him every day. Rick decided to replace her in this matter as well. Emil began to bully the illiterate Mexican. Rick chased the troublemaker away. He immediately learned from Arturo that Emil had quit the gang that day. The principal caught up with him. Emil quit the gang after they tried to force him to write a note to Hillary. It was all Victor's doing, and the principal is next. The authority figure was watching their conversation. Rick came to check on Hillary. He was very sorry that this had happened to her. The woman was holding up well. She invited her colleague to have dinner with her. Rick, as usual, arrived at school early. He witnessed Emil being thrown off the roof. He broke through the glass hanging by his body from the rope. Emil was taken away by ambulance, and Rick couldn't think of anything better to do than go to a bar and get drunk. Afterward, he went to the hospital to visit the injured boy. Rick is deeply sorry that his actions led to this tragedy. He was wrong to think he could change anything. Suddenly, Emil woke up and called Rick a wimp. He shouldn't have stuck his ass out. Emil's words energized Rick. Seeing Victor's insolent face in the cafeteria, Rick ran up to the thug and stuffed his mouth with chips. He'll find a way to put the bastard in jail. Go to hell. You're the one who went to hell. Victor threatened that if Rick showed up at school tomorrow, he'd kill him. The students had never seen the thugs in such a vulnerable state. The police just called. White Zach was released on bail, so the police won't be able to help the principal either. He'd better take the day off tomorrow. But Rick isn't giving up. Phillips promised to support him. That evening, Hillary came to see Rick. She learned that Zach had been released, so he's transferring to another school in another city. The woman came to say goodbye. Rick understood everything, so he didn't even try to dissuade her. In the morning, all the students stared at the reckless principal. He conducted history lesson as if nothing had happened, and he stayed to study with Arturo. Hillary entered the classroom. She decided she couldn't leave her students after all. The children hadn't gone home. They were waiting for something downstairs. Arturo agreed to walk the teacher to her car, but at the last moment he darted back into the school. White Zach climbed the fence and entered the building. Rick and the security guard were about to leave the school, but at that moment, Victor and his minions arrived. Rick wanted to call the police, but the wires were already down. Phillips grabbed the chains to lock the doors and saw an intruder in the building. Yo-Yo was waiting for Rick in the hallway with a knife. The man himself was armed with a bat. Phillips was about to fight first, but he was locked in the storage room. Rick was left alone in the locker room against 3 men. He had to hide and run. The director turned on the hot water and filled the shower with steam. Phillips started smashing the storage room, and Mustachioed was sent to check on the security guard. Victor finally found Rick and held a gun to his head. However, he didn't pull the trigger. The leader ordered Yo-Yo to stab the director. Yo-Yo had had enough of what they'd done to Emil. He wasn't going to jail. So if Victor wanted to kill the director, let him do it himself. The boss shot the disobedient thug. The director was supposed to be next, but Arthur unexpectedly came to the rescue and knocked the gun away. Meanwhile, Phillips dealt with Mustachioed and ran to the locker room. White Zach was waiting for him there, but he was quickly knocked out. It turned out that without his friends and a gun, Victor was nothing, and the man gave the thug a good beating. The principal kicked down the criminal's door and threw him onto the pavement in front of the other students. Victor was taken away by the police. Rick Latimer made a significant contribution to finally stopping the lawlessness at the city's worst school.